Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, reacting to preseason week number 2 between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Chargers in what was complete and utter domination by the Niners in all three phases of the game, from the offense, the defense, special teams. San Francisco brought it from the jump, and it carried through to scoring 41 total points out there at SoFi Stadium. The only touchdown given up all day was one late in the evening, and then a pick six by the Chargers defense. But other than that, this game was really fun to watch. A lot of positivity from the evening, and not much to walk away thinking, I don't like that if I'm the San Francisco 49ers. We'll get into negatives later on, deeper into the show, probably towards the end, because there really just is not a lot of them after this game. A lot of positives, which is what you want to hear leaving a preseason game. Last week it was De'Zhaun Stribling and his debut, and today you got Kaelon Black. The starters played in this game, or most of them did. And this was a fun game through and through. A lot of action through and through. The offense played well. The defense played extremely well. Bounced back after last week's loss against the Titans. And I think overwhelmingly, Niner fans should walk away very pleased with how this game turned out. And more importantly, how the youngsters looked all around, from the offense, the defense, the rookies, second-year, third-year guys. The Niners finally, at least it seems they finally have some young depth behind their stars that hasn't been there in previous years, or at least is showing itself to be more fruitful thus far in 2026 than in previous seasons. That said, we're going to get to the good, the bad, the stock up, the stock down of the evening. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you can, go ahead and follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, 49ers_access is the X or Twitter, and use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS if you want to see your San Francisco 49ers play in 2026. Go to SeatGeek.com, save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using that promo code 49ers Access. That said, let's jump right into the evening, because I think this game told us a lot about many positional battles on the roster, mainly left guard. So we know San Francisco has 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen squared away. Trent, Brendel, Pooney, McKivitz, right? Those guys are guaranteed to start at least on day one, barring any injury. I think tonight gave us a very big indication as to what Shanahan, Forrester, and company think of the left guard position. Because if you look at who did not play tonight, right? No Christian McCaffrey, no Trent Williams, no George Kittle, no Fred Warner, no Dre Greenlaw. Injuries are obviously included in this bunch as well. No Dominic Pooney, but more importantly, no Robert Jones tonight either. Now, I don't know if Shanahan will reveal at some point in time, whether after the game or maybe on Friday morning, that Robert Jones suffered an injury we didn't know about, but he didn't play tonight. And if he was healthy, that to me tells me that they think he is the front runner to be this team's starting left guard, not Connor Colby, not Austin Pleasance, and they believe that right now he's leading the race for that starting left guard spot and didn't want to play him for maybe a multitude of reasons tonight. But I thought it was worth noting that unless Jones is hurt, he didn't play with the other starting offensive linemen outside of Jake Brendel. So keep that in the back of your mind, not saying it's a guaranteed thing, but I just found it odd that a veteran free agent that was signed to a 1-year contract wasn't playing in preseason week 2 amidst a positional battle. Either he's hurt or he's leading that pack at left guard. Some more good news on the evening coming way of George Kittle via Adam Schefter of ESPN. he said George Kittle is ahead of schedule and has a quote-unquote legitimate chance to play week 1 against the Rams after meeting with Dr. Neil Elatrash. Good news there for George Kittle, obviously. I don't know if him playing week 1 is to be the best advice for him, but before the game, that was some good news that we did get, that Kittle is ahead of schedule and nearing a return in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I think he should play week 2 at the earliest. It wouldn't be against a pup list to begin the year to give him more time, but every day that goes by, every new report equals better news for George Kittle. But getting into the game itself, we got our first look at the starters, or most of them, for San Francisco tonight. Brock Purdy played. Deebo Samuel played a little bit. The only offensive starters that didn't play was Trent Williams, maybe Robert Jones, Dominic Pooney, Mike Evans, and I believe Colton McKivitz, Christian McCaffrey, then, of course, George Kittle. But you got the big ones, right? You got Brock Purdy out there for the first time in 2026, and a very kind of ease your way back into the season performance from Brock Purdy. 4 for 6 on the night, 29 passing yards, 3 rushing yards. Showed that the turf toe injury was far behind him, scrambling a couple times to evade some pressure and get San Francisco a couple more extra yards on the ground. Again, he wasn't his best, obviously. I think this felt more like a reintroduction to Brock Purdy. And I think for a quarterback that is, been in joint practices, seeing other defenses play so far, this game kind of felt like not a meaningless game, because every snap is not meaningless, but the work he had done in joint practices far outweighs what we saw tonight. But he wasn't bad by any means. Couple of nice throws to Deebo Samuel and De'Zhaun Stribling. Had, I think, one to Luke Farrell that was dropped later on in his outing, and then he had one that probably his worst throw of the night was almost picked off, threw it behind, I believe it was Stribling. If not, it was Deebo. Threw it behind him, high and behind him, almost got picked off. But other than that, I thought Purdy was pretty good. Nothing to write home about, nothing to jump for joy and be mad about. It was kind of just hey, get out there, kid, and show us what you got for, one drive, then get out of there, because you have bigger fish to fry as the season continues. But the trio of first looks when it comes to starting caliber talent out there, not to mention didn't have his offensive line blocking for him. So, take of that what you will from Brock Purdy. I wouldn't make too much of that, nor do I think most people are, unless you are one of the insane people out there that belong in some sort of asylum in preseason week number 2. Also got to see Deebo Samuel back in the San Francisco 49ers jersey doing some punt returns. Did it look supernatural back there? I think him being a kick returner makes more sense for San Francisco if they want to utilize him in that way. Punt returner probably isn't the way to use him, at least in my opinion. But, got tackled a couple times, looked like Deebo again, nothing too out of the ordinary, nothing too big either. There weren't many splash plays from the offense in this one, but there was some splash plays from the defense early on in this game, because Niner fans, I hope you were paying attention to the defensive line when this game began, because oh my, Osa Odigizua, this dude is gonna be a problem. Now again, it's the Chargers offensive line. Their interior is not great. They lost their starting center probably for the season in joint practices against San Francisco, but Osa Odigizua was a presence from the very first defensive snap in this game. The first 2 drives, really, he was pushing dudes left and right, creating havoc and forcing Justin Herbert off his spots, and also Trey Lance included. Narrowly missed a tackle for loss on that second drive, and almost got Lance for a sack. For a guy that was just missing, I'm imagining that when he has Nick Bosa and Micah Williams and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw behind him, hopefully giving him some better coverage. Those narrowly missed sacks or narrowly missed tackle for losses turn into, actual tackle for losses and sacks. So I think Osa Digizua was great, generating pressure from the interior, forcing quarterbacks off his spots, and being as advertised. We've heard all the good stuff. We've seen the good stuff in practices, live and in person at Levi's and during joint practices. But to see it on television in his debut, number 92, one to watch this year for sure for the San Francisco 49ers. But those were the first looks for the most part. We saw Lenore tonight, saw Renardo Green tonight too. Lenore was really good, like he always is, but the notable first looks, those were Osa Digizua, Brock Purdy, and Deebo Samuel. But enough of that, because I want to get into the stock up and stock down of today's show. That's why you're here. That's why we do shows like this, because training camp, preseason is where young players try to prove their value, improve their stock, and in some cases, clinch a roster spot as early as week number 2 of the preseason. And I think where you have to begin, just like last week, is 33rd overall draft pick in the 2026 draft, that being De'Zhaun Stribling. This dude continues to impress every time we see him. Again tonight, 4 receptions, 46 yards. This guy is the real freaking deal. I think last week, we saw the hands, the deep ball. We kind of got our first glimpse, our introduction to De'Zhaun Stribling, and we all said, whoa, this dude looks really good. How can you build upon that? And I can make the case that, well, maybe the box score doesn't scream, wow, what a better outing it was. I think what Stribling showed tonight may have been more impressive, and I think shows you that there's much more than simply just a deep ball highlight and maybe a couple of nice plays here or there, because through 5 offensive drives for him thus far in preseason, 13 targets, 11 receptions, 109 yards. And I think tonight especially, one of the biggest takeaways is his connection with Brock Purdy, because you never know how a young wide receiver, a rookie wide receiver, will pair with a quarterback, right? Sometimes quarterbacks have favorite targets. Sometimes it takes a young receiver time to be able to gain the trust of the incumbent quarterback, the franchise guy of like, yeah, I know you're a prospect we like, and you can offer all these great things, but you have to earn my trust, my respect, and you have to earn me looking your way with the football in my hands on big downs. And I know it's the preseason, doesn't matter much in the grand scheme of things, but I thought what we saw from Brock Purdy and De'Zhaun Stribling tonight was exactly what you wanted to see if you were a Niner fan. Tonight, 3 separate times, they found each other for receptions, twice on 2 big 3rd down conversions. Saw you out there seeing the 1-5. That's not Jauan Jennings. That is not 3rd and Jauan. It is 3rd and De'Zhaun Stribling. And there are already signs that they've already kind of not mastered, but they've already gained and already kind of respected each other enough to say, look, 3rd down, I'm coming your way. You give me a mismatch, I can trust that, and I'll give you the football, and we can make some magic in that way. On top of that, I think, Purdy trusting Stribling when he has Deebo Samuel out there, and eventually he'll have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, Mike Evans out there, knowing you're already trusting who is probably going to be your number 3 wide receiver, at least when it comes to name value. When you already trust that guy, it makes your offense so much more dangerous. One of the worst things a quarterback can do and a young receiver can do is fail to gain chemistry and trust, leading to big moments, them not be able to turn to each other and make the completion, get a first down and whatnot, move the chains. That was not a problem at all time. In fact, it was the exact opposite. those two guys were the big chain movers for San Francisco's starting offense. Stribling moved from the X to the Z to the slot, the big nickel stuff. He was doing it all for San Francisco's offense. So you see Shanahan moving him around, trying to get things done and see where he fits best, kind of creating a versatile weapon for San Francisco. And going back to Brock Purdy, there was a play on third down where it's a slant. And those are tough plays because sometimes you can get bracketed by a defensive back. You can get press coverage. But Stribling, bigger body guy, created separation, which is what exactly you want to do on a third down slant route going for a short yardage completion. He created separation in short yardage, caught the football, went down, got the first down. Bing, bang, boom. Exactly what you want to see from De'Zhaun Stribling. Then later on in his outing, after Purdy had left the game, he and Mac Jones found each other for a 21-yard reception, beating the Chargers defense on a 21-yard crossing route. He just kind of got right between the cornerback and the linebacker, found some space in the zone, and bang, Jones put it right on him for a massive play. And then I think, even earlier, I think on he and Purdy's second connection on third down, Purdy drops back and he sees a guy in the flat and says, I'm going to give you a chance, goes up, uses his big body and brings it down. It's like, that's what you want to see. That is exactly why you drafted a player like Stribling. And while, again, it's preseason week 2, we're not going to go too crazy here. For all the talk of he can't separate and, he can't do this and he can't do that, it's not like Stribling has shown any of those limitations in a very large sample size. He separated a handful of times tonight, even on Stribling's, worst play of the evening where he drops a deep ball from Mac Jones. He created separation, got open deep. He just kind of got caught up and couldn't, bring the ball in. Kind of caught it and twisted, and the ball kind of flung out of his hands. Like, yeah, that has to get better. Those hands need to improve. But even on Stribling's worst play, got open downfield, made a defense sweat, and gave the quarterback a window to get him the football. Now, you haul that in, you're talking about touchdown to De'Zhaun Stribling, the most impressive game preseason stretch of the NFL season so far for a rookie. And maybe he's already in that category. You're hearing on fantasy leagues, you're hearing people gush about him, but another fantastic day from this year's 33rd overall draft pick, just showing that he'll be a weapon in this Niners offense, and especially if that chemistry of Brock Purdy continues and just blossoms throughout the season. But, I think one good thing to do when it comes to Niner players, because myself, I'm sure you too, we are so ingrained in Niner football, listening to podcasts, listening to radio, watching TV when it comes to the Niners, reading articles, Matt Maiocco, Matt Barrows, like we are just Niners. Sometimes it's nice to zoom out and get somebody else's thoughts that doesn't watch San Francisco football, doesn't cover the team. And I watched the Chargers broadcast tonight of the game in the first half. And on the very first play that Stribling caught the football, comebacker from Brock Purdy, caught it with his hands, sturdy, steady, just turned around, hands tucked, went down, boom, great play. Dan Fouts, Charger legend, I think San Francisco gave him quite a pounding in the Super Bowl 1994-1995 season. But he is their color commentator. And the first thing out of his mouth was, wow, he looks like a veteran. And then he kind of pointed out how he catches the football. Now, you could think what you want of Dan Fouts and his, where he places in, quarterback rankings and whatnot, but he's one of the greatest Chargers quarterbacks of all time, right? And if he's out there touting that the opposing team's wide receiver jumps off the field to me, he's a veteran to me, he looks like a veteran to me, that is all I need to hear. That I can see with my eyes, the kids look pretty good so far through 2 games. Been the best offensive player maybe in the entire NFL through 2 games. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody in there, but of the rookie class, certainly, like by far, the guy. Um, then to hear Dan Fouts say, he looks like a vet. You can't even tell he's a rookie. That is very big praise for a young player like Stribling, which only makes me more happier knowing that he's a San Francisco 49er and not playing elsewhere right now because it's very fun to watch him play. He has been just he's been so much better than I think anybody could have expected. And after hearing Pearsall go down and now Debo's back, and what does that mean for Stribling? It just means that there's opportunity, and he has taken the bull by the horns and just rode off with it. He's been awesome through 2 games. It wasn't just all Stribling though, because while Stribling continues to see his stock rise, we got a preseason debut again tonight, that being of Indiana running back and number 90 overall pick, Kaelon Black. Running back got the start tonight alongside Brock Purdy. Right now, he's probably in line to be this team's running back number 2 behind Christian McCaffrey. And I thought he was also freaking awesome. 8 carries, 33 yards. While that doesn't, scream, what a great night. No touchdowns, no like huge runs. Sincere McCormick got the big 37-yard run later on in the game, but I thought Kaelon Black was awesome. I think sometimes it isn't exactly what your box score looks like or, the highlight reel you put on tape. I think that Kaelon Black looked explosive, hit the hole extremely hard, isn't afraid to run between the tackles. He's gritty. There is extra effort runs on nearly every attempt he had. He's not somebody who goes down on first contact. He lowers his helmet, lowers his shoulder, and says, bring it on. There was a play tonight where the offensive line just got blown up. He's in the backfield for like a -4 or 5 yard loss, and he gets hit and just keeps those legs churning and turns a near 4 to 5 yard loss into a 0 yard loss and a 0 yard gain. But in a way, that's kind of a big win for San Francisco's offensive. Like, it wasn't a net negative. Yeah, it wasn't a gain, but we can kind of recuperate and take things in stride and say, hey, instead of it being 2nd and 15, it's still 2nd and 10. That's much better to operate from than where it would have been had Black not done that. So very good play there. Also on a 3rd and 1, got the football, hit the hole hard, gained about 5 or 6 yards. And, I think that's one thing that is kind of limited where San Francisco's running backs have been in previous years. Now, we love Jordan Mason here on the podcast. Why wouldn't we? But Isaac Guerrero being a big example of this, and other guys that have been kind of the quote-unquote power backs, Jordan Mason, who had a hard time seeing the field early in his career, although probably deserving of some playing time. Brian Robinson last year, for a bigger guy, really wasn't a power back. I think the big difference is that Kaelon Black was just like, at least tonight, was just like, I'm going in there and whatever happens, happens. I'm going to use my body as a wrecking ball. Now, he's not Marion Barber circa 2006, right? He's not running 35 yards backwards to gain a yard, but breaking 10 tackles in the process. But there is this sense of reckless abandonment with Black and how he runs, which again screams Kyle Shanahan of, you may not be around for 4 years, but I'm going to run you into the ground while you are here. And I hope Black finds a way to protect himself, but he's going to be used if that's the way he's going to run. But also the one cuts he makes, the vision he has, the decisiveness, like, it's all there. That short area explosiveness is all there. He may not have the 4.3 speed, the ability to break off these 35, 65 yard runs. Those things are hard to come by, right? But he definitely can give you 15-yard gains here or there, 20-yard gains here or there, and do the work to get you 5 yards and a couple more in the process. So big fan of his tonight. There is one very important thing we have to point out, though. because you can gush about the running and the vision and the speed and the quickness. It is so nice, and it's going to benefit him so much as a rookie and forever how long he's in San Francisco. Because, and I'm going to ask you this, and hopefully you can answer out loud in your own head or to a friend, partner, whatever. What has held back other running backs? Trey Sermon, Ty Davis Price, mainly Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerrero, though at times, certainly Jordan James, albeit not much last year, but is a question mark for him going forward too, of like, do you check this box? All of those running backs, despite their various issues, have all struggled at many points in their career to see the field. Why? Because they were not good pass protectors. They didn't pick up the blitz. They were unplayable on third downs. They couldn't be put in there on first down when Shanahan wants to drop back and pass the football 28 to 35 times a game. To alleviate Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the best blitz picking up running backs in football, nobody's been able to do that. Kaelon Black tonight picked up probably 3 to 4 blitzes alone on the first 2 drives of the game. That is going to be a massive difference in him being running back 2, running back 3, or never seeing the field. Because if he blocks like he did tonight, he is going to be guaranteed the RB2 job. Because those are the traits Shanahan looks for and desires out of his running backs. And those are traits, and those are a willingness to block like that. That'll get him on the field alongside Christian McCaffrey. That'll help San Francisco spell Christian McCaffrey and keep him fresh as the year goes on. So a very, very strong debut from him. Just a overall, like from a youngster standpoint, a 2026 draft class standpoint, Stribling and Black, looking pretty good. Now, it's only 1 to 2 games, so we're not going to go too crazy, but those 2 guys I think were just awesome tonight. And certainly makes me feel like San Francisco has found 2 players that can help them as soon as 2026, as soon as week 1 of the NFL season against the Rams in Australia. So great debut last week for Stribling and an awesome debut again for Black tonight. Moving on to the defense, though, because I think most of tonight's positives of the stock ups came on defense. Week 1 of the preseason, the defense really struggled. I do want to give credit to the entire run defense for tonight. They were really bad against Tennessee. Pollard and Spears were running up and down the field against them, whereas tonight, outside of like 2 Trey Lance runs, the Chargers could not move the football. For all the talk of Chargers punked the San Francisco 49ers in joint practices, it was the exact opposite tonight. It was like San Francisco came to play and said, this game may mean nothing. The outcome means nothing, but you didn't get our best effort on Tuesday. You're getting it on Thursday on August 20th. But moving on to the defense, though, in particular, I thought Jaden Duggar had another good day. It wasn't as good as week 1 of the preseason. Played a much better offense today that didn't do much, but personnel-wise, a much better offense. And I think that in the very first play of the game, Niners lose the coin toss. Chargers accept that they want the football. Awesome, cool. Defense set a tone. That's what Shanahan wants to do all the time anyways. Very first play of the game, a pitch to Marion Hampton. Who's there to get a tackle for loss? Jaden Duggar, setting a tone, playing linebacker, starting for this defense. So a very nice play there. Even later on, although he was out of position, I think it was Herbert, but it may have been Trey Lance. Probably Trey Lance. Duggar gets beat by Aronde Gradson, and he's not in a great place, but he has the makeup speed to chase him down, use his length, get in front of the football, and knock the ball away, and kind of fight with Gradson through the catch to get a PBU. So are there steps within that where he's got to get better? Yes. But I think to be gritty, play through the whistle, and knock the ball out of the hands of the tight end, I think that deserves some sort of a plus in my book. Moving on, though, I thought Romello Height, for a guy that is not known for his run defense, for a guy that is known to be a pass rushing specialist, um, second drive of the game for the Chargers. Trey Lance comes in. Most of LA's starters come out. First play, first down, second drive, gets tackle for loss, shoves guard aside, and gets a TFL. That, to me, deserves a plus. Now, I don't think San Francisco's pass rush was exactly there besides Osa Odighizuwa. That will come once they get healthier and get the entire starting group out there, but or at least you hope so. But I do think Height definitely showed more prowess in week number 2, where last week, there were some missed opportunities, not all his fault. There was some things I think that he was getting pushed around a lot against Tennessee. But I think overall, coming back week 2 against the Chargers, a very nice, I wouldn't say bounce back because that would imply he was bad last week, but, certainly a stock up in my eyes, especially against the run, which if he can do that against the run, that's good stuff because he's not known to do that. But if he can, that is a luxury for San Francisco in more ways than one. Moving back to the linebackers, I don't know if there was a more impressive defense performance tonight other than Garrett Wallow. Garrett Wallow was on another level. He played for the majority of the game, and this dude was making plays from quarter 1 to about quarter 3.5. He was lowering his shoulder, rocking dudes against the run, flying around making plays. I don't know exactly how San Francisco sees him because their linebacker room is pretty loaded. You have Warner, you have Dre, you have Duggar, who they like a lot, got a second consecutive start. They seemingly like Nick Martin a lot too. We'll see where exactly his standing is, but third-round draft pick last year, probably not going to move off that guy as soon as his sophomore season. But then there's Tatum Bethune and Jalen Graham and Garrett Wallow and guys like that littered across the depth chart. And I'm forgetting last year's Pro Bowler, Luke Gifford. Like this is a very stacked linebacker group that has young guys, veteran guys, and there's talent everywhere. Am I wrong to think Garrett Wallow might be the 4th best linebacker in that room? Maybe the 3rd? I know you have Fred and you have Dre. Those guys are in their own grouping. They are elites of elites. But then it's like, who's San Francisco's 3rd best linebacker? We'd like to believe it's Nick Martin, and maybe on most days it is. But tonight, it wasn't. And I thought Nick Martin was good tonight. He forced a fumble on a kick return, made multiple open field tackles in the flat. Like, Nick Martin was doing Nick Martin things. So this is not me knocking Nick Martin whatsoever. But Garrett Wallow was just better. And maybe Nick Martin isn't the right person to compare him to, but in a battle for Mike linebacker 2, or if they like Jaden Duggar there, Mike linebacker 3, off-ball linebacker, rotational guy, he certainly is beating Tatum Bethune for that job, and Bethune's not playing bad either, but Garrett Wallow just looks faster. He looks like he's in the right place more often. He anticipates the play in front of him more consistently. Hit a huge stop on 4th down tonight to stop a Chargers drive. Gave San Francisco the ball around midfield with like 1 minute left, and that drive that happened afterwards should have been a touchdown drive for San Francisco. So Garrett Wallow, for a guy who was on the practice squad last year in Denver, signed by San Francisco, plays freaking fantastic against the Eagles in the playoffs. I don't know how you cut him. Like, I think the assumption was Warner, Greenlaw, Martin, Duggar, and Bethune, and then Gifford. Those are like the 6 guys you probably want to keep. And Jalen Graham's a practice squad veteran dude you just kind of keep around in case someone else gets hurt. But I think Garrett Wallow is pushing so hard where I predicted earlier in the offseason that they're going to trade a linebacker And I said Tatum Bethune. Now, I wasn't implying that that was because Wallow would be so good, but Wallow has been so good that they may get to trade Bethune away for something. And look, Bethune's been good too. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying that that room is too crowded and too good to not get something for somebody else. So Garrett Wallow was awesome all the way around. Coverage, run defense. He plays fast and quick like San Francisco likes. He's a good special teamer, and I think in a pinch for a veteran guy that, if you're not really sure how much Trey Greenlaw will start this year, you're not sure exactly how Duggar looks come the regular season and what Nick Martin looks like come, his sophomore campaign. I think Wallow is much more capable of stepping in and being a starter for you for, a couple of games and giving you a breather in case somebody goes down, whereas other guys behind him or around him maybe aren't. So Garrett Wallow, massive, maybe one of the biggest stock ups of week number 2 of the preseason for myself. Nick Martin in that group too. He's getting a stock up as well. But if you are applying points to people, Garrett Wallow gets like 3 points in his favor, whereas Nick Martin probably gets 1, right? But a good day from him too. Again, forced a fumble, got a big takeaway, turnover. And then again, a lot of open field tackles, which is always what you want to see from linebackers. So San Francisco's defense was just really good overall. It's hard to complain. Like, I saw one of the comments last week of like, Sterling, the minute you started getting negative, I turned the show off. I didn't want to hear it. There's not going to be much of that because it was mainly all positive all game for San Francisco. Continuing with the positivity though, how about Jack Jones? They were playing Mike McDaniel's offense tonight with the Chargers. And when Jack Jones made a play, I wanted to harken back to Mike McDaniel in his press conference with the Dolphins when he was the head coach there, him going, Mike Jones. I wanted to say Jack Jones because Jack Jones is awesome. I'm so happy he's a San Francisco 49er. He's somebody I predicted to be on the roster when they signed him. He had excellent coverage in a goal line stance versus LA tonight. Forced them into a field goal. Ball was underthrown slightly, but, got his hands up, didn't make contact with the Chargers receiver, let him jump back into him. So kind of let things, come to him, if you will. It didn't, wasn't face guarding, was just very clean, nice coverage. I think Jack Jones will be this team's number 4 cornerback and number 3 outside cornerback behind Lenore and Green. He also combined to just rock the crap out of one of the Chargers wide receivers, DeAndre Lambert. Him and Duggar combined to just whap, hit him as hard as they could to force a 3rd and short. It knocked the guy out of the game for a period of time, so I hope he's healthy, but massive hit by Jack Jones. And then later on in the game, you talk about getting to PBU early, forcing a 3rd and short shortly afterwards, and then later Trey Lance kind of blindly throwing into the San Francisco defense. Jack Jones jumps a little kind of slant route and almost picks the ball off and probably would have gone for a 6 had he brought it in. So he's like almost there, and Jack Jones has, I think, maybe the best ball skills of any San Francisco defensive back. So it's not too often he gets his hands on the football and can't bring it in. So Jack Jones, major stock up again. He was hurt last week, hurt his hand like in the first drive or so. So good to see him finally be out there, make some plays, and played a lot tonight. And I think in a big way, certainly proved that he is a guy you want to keep around for at least 2026. I think he's like 27 years old. He's still really young. He's bounced around a lot in the NFL, and there are some character concerns, but sometimes it takes just being in the right place at the right time for guys to kind of bloom into the player you believe they can be. And he's awesome. Jack Jones deserves a big 2 thumbs up, massive stock up for me on the evening. And then Jacob Robinson, a guy that I think was overpowered against Tennessee. He is somebody who often doesn't play nickel And I think they're trying to move him inside, knowing that Nate Hobbs has been hurt for the majority of training camp in the preseason. There may be a sense of they're going to either just move him there in the meantime to get him more playing time, or they are trying to actually make him a nickel at the NFL level full time. Now, there's a long way to go for him, but I think tonight, for how bad or how mixed last Thursday was, tonight against the Chargers, a whole different story. He was at the right place a lot. He almost got a big interception like Jack Jones in this game. I think in the third quarter, right through his hands, just whoop. He just couldn't bring it in, but still a big PBU to jump in front of the pass and almost pick it off and almost give somebody else a chance to bring it in as well. He also had a very nice tackle against the run, which would be his second one of the preseason. So I like to highlight players that either are young, are kind of on the roster bubble, or I think are more deserving of the praise, or guys that don't get talked a lot about. I think Jacob Robinson, despite his struggles against the Titans and Wanda Robinson just not being able to compete with him just yet, I think Jacob Robinson is somebody to watch out for. Whether he makes the roster or not, that's not up to me, but I think he is somebody San Francisco wants to at least keep around on the practice squad again after missing all of last year, breaking his forearm. So good to see him out there making plays, and I think he's somebody who, as a priority UDFA last year, I think is in a spot to at least turn some heads and make somebody rethink their thoughts on the cornerback room as a whole. I don't know where he fits in there, but Nate Hobbs hasn't been healthy. I don't like to keep guys that are hurt a lot. And we'll get more into that come the receiver conversation shortly, because it's going to be a tight race to receiver number 6. But then Jacob Robinson is turning some heads for sure. Before we get into stock down, because I have 4 people there, and they all belong to the same group of position players, I do have 2 stocks fluctuating, because on one hand, both of these players had great highlights in more ways than one, made good plays that will impress Kyle Shanahan, impress me, impress you, and they were football caliber positive plays. On the other hand, they also had some negative plays that you just said, what are you doing? Or that's not going to play. Or in these 2 guys' cases, you may go in the doghouse because of that. And, right now, Shanahan's doghouse has a vacancy, and it may have 2 of them. And if Stribling's not going to rent a room for the evening or the season, it's up for grabs. And it's often reserved for younger receivers that are doing things that take time to either grow out of or just never do. And I think Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing deserve 2 of the biggest stock fluctuations of the evening. Because starting with Cowing, Jacob Cowing, I think, is too small to be a wide receiver in the NFL. I'll just point blank say that. I don't think him as a wide receiver works in the NFL unless he is a pure gadget guy on screens, and that's it. I don't think it works. He's not Tyreek Hill. He is an outlier in this conversation. Jacob Cowing, to me, is not going to work as a wide receiver. He's not physical enough. The routes aren't good enough right now. He gets knocked off his routes too easily. He can't go up and get the football. And that's kind of all what Brock Purdy and Mac Jones like to do. And so if you don't fit the quarterbacks you're playing with, then you have to etch out a different role, because tonight, Mac Jones tossing kind of a jump ball, or at least a ball that was thrown and he jumped for it when he didn't have to. He could have turned around, tried to use his hands to catch the football like Stribling often does. And instead, Cowing, being a smaller receiver, jumped for it, ball pops up and falls to the ground. Okay, well, that's not flashing the ball skills you want to see from a guy that you believe can be a playmaker for you in the offense. Then later, as a punt returner, relieving Deebo Samuel, he lets a ball bounce on the 35-yard line You don't do that. That is a fair catch opportunity through and through. But he lets the ball bounce, and then he lets it roll 13 yards further into his own territory at their own 12. What are you doing, Jacob Cowing? Those are two glaring mistakes you can't do. You're giving up vital yardage for a team that wants to put up 30 points a game and is going to have to play some really tough defenses and some high-powered offenses this season. You can't do that. You can't put yourself in a position as an offense and as a wide receiver to not catch the football or give up pivotal ground. But then later on in the game, he has a 40 or near 40-yard return negated by an illegal formation call on Ashton Davis, who, by the way, got chewed out by Brant Boyer afterwards. So he gets a big punt return negated, and we're like, oh, that sucked. That was a big play by Cowing. It doesn't count now. And then right after the next punt, he takes it 83 yards to the house. And that was after I was like, oh, he's done. He's not going to make the team. Boo, Cowing's over. This is it. But then he does that. And it's like, okay, maybe I spoke too soon. But also, that's kind of the pick your poison with him. That's kind of the duality of Cowing of as a wide receiver, I don't think it's going to work. But if Debo's not going to be comfortable back there, Pearsall's going to be out for the season, and Jordan Watkins also gives you some queasiness back there, and you can be an explosive, game-changing threat like Sky Moore was last season, that'll play. There is a role in the NFL for a player like that. Sky Moore got a nice raise from the Packers because he was doing stuff like that. Cowing can do that. Now, can he stay healthy? I don't know. Can it be consistent? I don't know. But if you can at least pose a threat in some way, you will make a roster. But then he follows it up, 2 great punt returns back to back. We were all feeling the Cowing hype. Oh, Jacob, you got me feeling some type of way. And then he drops a wide open underneath pass as a receiver later on a small kind of slant route. And it's like, okay, so do you want the doghouse? Do you not want to stay in the doghouse? Do you want to be cut? Do you want to make the roster? And it's a lot of people were like, oh, a punt return touchdown guarantees you make the roster. I don't really prescribe to that thought. Yes, it was a fantastic play. Yes, Cowing deserves a stock up in regards to those 2 massive punts. And I am a firm believer that young players need to find their niche. If you are not going to be an X wide receiver, a Z wide receiver, a slot wide receiver, and not going to find your way into being, a consistent offensive player, where can you find your role? I'm all for that. The NBA, MLB, NFL, they all need role players throughout their entire roster. And Cowing can be that. But I don't know if Shanahan wants to carry a role player if they can also not contribute on offense. Now, maybe he does. Maybe he wants Sky Moore again, like last year. But I would like to believe Shanahan, who is putting Deebo Samuel back there and putting Jordan Watkins back there, and was entertaining the thought of putting Ricky Pearsall back there, wants a game changer, but also wants a game changer that can play other positions, meaning can actually go be in the slot and be a gadget player and do things in this offense. And, Cowing, I just don't think Cowing can do that. End arounds, screens, sure. Can you be a very 2023 version of Mecole Hardman? I think Cowing can be that. I don't know if Shanahan wants that, but as a punt returner, it's really hard to say no to a guy that can give you 83 yards untouched and burn by the entire Chargers unit when it didn't seem like there was a chance. So a very positive and negative day, mixed bag, if you will, for Jacob Cowing. But he isn't alone there, because like Cowing, the other receiver fighting for that job, that 5th or 6th spot on the depth chart, is Jordan Watkins. You know, I will say this, that I am of the belief that Christian Kirk probably is in line to still make the roster. I know that contradicts my thoughts on Nate Hobbs, who has missed uh, a little less time than Kirk has. Kirk hasn't practiced the entire training camp and preseason sessions. Not exactly sure when he'll come back, but I think Kirk can give you more as a wide receiver, and he does have punt return experience and kick return experience. Like, there is a belief that a vet knows what he's doing, knows where to be. He's played in an offense like this plenty of times before. Like, that is trustworthy. So I think it is between, like, you have Evans, Debo, Stribling, Robinson. Those are your 4. I think Kirk is still that 5th guy. And I think it's Cowing and Watkins fighting for 6 still. Whereas Watkins, to me, is almost the inverse of Jacob Cowing. Cowing can't block, undersized, not a good receiver, but a great return man. Watkins isn't a great return man at all, but I think does possess a higher upside as a wide receiver. He's bigger. I think tonight was a very nice display of his blocking ability that really he hasn't shown, and the effort wasn't there last year. And for a guy that is more of a finesse wideout, he is trying to get better as a run blocker. He had 3 catches, 41 yards, and 1 touchdown tonight. That plays in the NFL. But the blocking, no block, no rock. That is exactly what Shanahan believes in. And, you know, there was the bad. In the second half, he missed a block. It led to a TFL. That's not good in the second half. But in the first half, he has a fantastic block fighting with the defensive back and helps free up a lane for Sincere McCormick to go 37 yards and get a touchdown. And it's like, okay, like there was a couple of plays leading up to that where he was doing the exact same thing on the edge, setting it, getting his running backs lanes to run, and kind of being a stronghold there. And it's like, okay, like you're really inconsistent, but you're trying. Do you reward that? Or do you give the guy that can give you 83-yard punt returns a job simply because, well, nobody else can do that for us? Like, that's kind of the debate. Laurie Matthews asked the question here. What do they need more? A return guy or another true wide receiver? And is that what it comes down to? I'm sure there's more to it than just simply you're not a good receiver and you're a good receiver and you're a good return guy and you're not one of those. But if I'm San Francisco, I want the guy that can help me on 1st through 4th down, not the guy that can help me only on punts. I want a more versatile player. And I think Watkins can be a fine punt return guy, but he'll be kind of more of a Richie James Jr., stick in the mud, not really much explosiveness there. It'll be more of the fair catch game. It'll be more of the don't turn the ball over type of return man who you don't mind that, but you prefer something else, like Cowing. But for Watkins, he blocks well tonight for the most part. One bad block or so, but for the most part, you look at that and go, Shanahan would love that. Like, that is how you stay out of the doghouse. Then later, to near the end of the game, he has a nice 17-yard touchdown reception on a post route. And it's like, yes, he had a good debut, or re-debut, if you will, against Tennessee last week, and is showing more as a receiver now in week 2 as well. And you're like, you are seeing Jordan Watkins being able to kind of grow as a wideout. He's trying more. Their efforts there. It's like, that's growth. That is growth from a young player who did not play all but 5 snaps last year. That's what you want to see. But then before halftime, he watches Cowing take the big punt return back. And these are 2 guys kind of neck and neck for the same job. So it's like, well, if you did that, then I got to prove myself too. And his very next opportunity, Mac Jones lays him a seat over the middle, and he goes up and he just can't bring it in, and then he gets tackled, and ball falls on the ground, and it probably would have been a big touchdown pass. And Mac Jones is frustrated. He's out there like, oh God, because he had 2 touchdowns dropped, essentially, one by Stribling and one by Watkins. He's like, you're making me look bad out here, and I'm putting these balls in the right place. So one, I feel bad for Mac Jones because it was a great pass on both plays. But 2, it's like for Watkins, it's like every step forward seems to come with a half step backwards, not a full step backwards. I think Watkins has earned a lot more credibility, at least from me, amongst the room, where I would give him the job over Jacob Cowing. But I can also see people who are like, screw that, cut Christian Kirk, give it to Watkins and Cowing. I wouldn't go that far, because if someone else gets hurt, then you're in deep crap. And Kirk's not going to be, this ultimate game-changing threat, but safety blanket of like, hey, the house is on fire, and the guy's like, well, I got a bucket of water. I can put out one of the flames. That's who Christian Kirk truly is. And sometimes what you don't want is someone to walk into your kitchen and go, oh my God, it's on fire, and go, well, I'm going to pour water on the skillet, and then that to me can be Cowling or Watkins at times. So I think you have to have one of those safety blankets there, and that to me is Christian Kirk, whereas I think you only want to have one of the wild cards in the room. And I'm much more banking on Watkins being a player than Cowling is, simply because there's better size. While there may be a lack of versatility there, there's also the ability to actually be a blocker. Cowling can't do that. And if you're going to live and die by no block, no rock, don't carry the guy who literally can't block because he's too small. So I'm not trying to advocate for keeping one guy over the other, although I keep Watkins over Cowling. I'm just saying that both these guys have very big drawbacks, and both these guys do have a lot of positives to work with. So a very fluctuating stock of like, I want to go up, but also I kind of got to go down, because there's some ickiness in there as well. But staying in the ickiness, staying in the mucky muck of tonight's game, because a lot of positives, overwhelmingly positive stuff tonight. There was some negatives. Now, I have not seen, as of 11:22 p.m. on the West Coast, following the game tonight, if somebody is going to be out, meaning Austin Pleasance. Let's see if we can find any news here quickly. I don't see anything, because Austin Pleasance got hurt tonight. And there was a lot of talk about him being the starting left guard. I don't know where that came from. Now, Pleasance has been getting left guard snaps during practice and during tonight's game. And I think we talked about at the top of the show, it's pretty telling that Robert Jones didn't play tonight. Whether he's hurt or not, Robert Jones not playing could be an indication that he is the lead dog for the left guard starting position. Whereas Austin Pleasance and Carver Willis were getting the lion's share of the left guard snaps tonight. Willis started at left guard, Pleasance took over at left guard, and then when Pleasance got hurt, Willis came back in at left guard. Connor Colby did not see a single snap at left guard tonight. That is a bad sign if you are Connor Colby. You have been surpassed by Robert Jones and a rookie in his first training camp. You've been jumped. And if Pleasance is there, who he was hurt tonight, so we'll see what the indicator was. It was a knee injury. It didn't look very good. Kind of an awkward contact, but also non-contact injury. Hopefully he's okay. He's definitely in line to be this team's, swing right tackle, swing left tackle, behind Colton McKivitz. But he was getting worked before the injury. So we can think what you want of Austin Pleasance, of, versatility he brings, and he's kind of a third in line for left guard, and some people out there who are respected amongst the fan base of like, no, Austin Pleasance is the guy at left guard. He was horrible tonight. He was getting worked by backups consistently before the injury. And then, of course, he had probably one of the worst blocks of the game. And by blocks, I mean no blocks, because he doesn't pick up his blitz assignment. The guy just has a free lane to A.J. Martinez. Martinez is like, I don't know how to play quarterback, and just throws it up, pick six, boom, going the other way. So Austin Pleasance, from the injury alone, is a stock down, but also from his play. Not good, man. At all. Like, at all. So, Austin Pleasance, big stock down for me. Connor Colby, also not a great night again. Learning that he's not even seeing left guard reps. Like, they've almost, like, banished him from playing left guard of, like, we tried it. You know what? It's okay. It's like the Colin Cowherd meme where he's like, it's okay, LeBron. You can go. You can retire now. We have Ben Simmons. and like, I don't know if Robert Jones or Willis or Ben Simmons in this case, but San Francisco has very obviously said, Connor Colby, just go ahead and play right guard. It's okay. Left guard's not for you. I think he'll be the left guard, right guard, in case of emergency. He'll be the Daniel Brunskill where it's like, hey, someone else got hurt and you got to have someone else get in there. Colby, he's like, whatever you need, coach. He'll be that guy, and that's not a bad thing. Every team needs that guy. I'm not knocking him for not being able to win a job, but it's just his stock has fallen. He was up, and it went in the span of 3 weeks in 2 preseason games. So big stock down for Connor Colby. The last offensive lineman stock down, Enrique Cruz, man. Oh, God. It sucks because Vidarian Lowe's been out. Now Austin Pleasance has gotten hurt. The Niners are very thin on tackles. It's Trent, who they don't want to play at all. It's Colt McKivitz, who they're limiting for obvious reasons, being a starter. Then it's Enrique Cruz and Brandon Parker, and that's kind of it now. If Pleasance is going to be out for a while, hopefully he's not. I haven't seen any updates yet, but Enrique Cruz, if you told me this was Enrique Cruz's first day playing football, first training camp ever, first time getting out there with pads on and learning how to play offensive lineman, I wouldn't be shocked. There is just so much that needs to get worked on. It is, you talk about a project. This is like a project that needs 3-4 years to get done. It's like that freaking California speed line they poured $1 billion into and it still isn't done and is never going to get done. It's kind of Enrique Cruz. He's almost their new Nick Zakelj, where it's like, man, we scouted this guy for 6 years, man. Fordham, baby. It's an offensive lineman, camp. These dudes churn them out. Kansas, Dominic Pooney was there. Well, now we got Enrique Cruz. These guys turn them out. And it's like, yeah, but Enrique Cruz isn't good. He doesn't know how to play offensive linemen. Sure, he can move. That's great, man. You're playing him at tackle, not guard. That doesn't matter much right now. You tell that dude to stand up and get in the stance and just block an edge rusher. It's like trying to ask a toddler to guard Michael Jordan. You just can't do it. It's just like, what are we watching? I feel bad because it's not his fault. He didn't draft himself. And I want to believe that a player that has his skill set, meaning his physical ability, can learn, can grow. I'm not going to write off somebody in their first training camp ever. Guys learn at different rates and times, and that can take players a while to translate. Raheem Mostert took like 4 years to be an adequate running back and then was awesome for about a 5-year stretch. Like, things take time, right? Rome was not built in the day. Diamonds sometimes need some pressure to grow, right? So, not writing off Ricky Cruz. I'm just saying that if he makes this roster, my brain is going to explode. I don't think another team was going to draft him. And I think every team would say, wow, 4-year project, 3-year project. There's a lot to like, but wow, there's a lot that needs to get worked on. It's like San Francisco went and picked up a, car at the junkyard and said, I can fix her. I can fix her up, man. She needs new tires and new hubcaps and new engine and new radiator, and she needs new transmission and all these things, new interior. It's like, yeah, this is not Pit My Ride, brother. Exhibit's not walking through the door right now to do it overnight. They're not going to put a football player inside the football player because you like football players. It's not. No. It's not how it's going to work. So massive stock down. I don't know if the stock can get lower. The expectations aren't very high, so maybe that's just me kind of being a jerk about it. But not an ideal beginning to his Niner tenure. Then finally, the smallest of stock downs, but it's mainly because of the injury that happened. Renardo Green pulled a hammy tonight. And he did it after being out of position against rookie Brennan Thompson, who can fly. I think a 4.3 speed dude's insane. But got beat by the rookie, being out of phase, got caught lacking, if you will, and couldn't catch up. Did inevitably catch up, but because of that, he had to push himself, 10 times harder to catch up to him, and pulled a hammy. Got pulled out of the game and couldn't finish it. And we know hamstring strains can last a long time. They can be a week. They can be a month. They can be, if you're Jacob Kaelon, it can be a whole year. So for a guy who his stock was just through the freaking roof, I thought the beginning of the game was nice for him, but pull a hammy, get beat deep. It's like you panicked in some way and you got hurt. Recovered well enough, but not exactly what you want to see. Nick Martin also pulled the hammy. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, there really isn't much. There really isn't much to hate on or speak negatively of. Niners are having fun tonight. Scored 41 points in the preseason game, and most of it goes well. I think San Francisco's offensive line could have really used. They didn't play well opening up running lanes. There were a couple of big runs, but the rushing attack still needs some work. To end, though, we do have some clarity on some stuff. Austin Pleasance is not thought to have an ACL injury, so good news there for Austin Pleasance, but undetermined of the severity, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. And this makes my entire offensive line point moot, so this isn't good. But Robert Jones, unsure of an injury, but does have an undisclosed injury right now. He will miss next week. Now, not sure if that means all of next week, meaning like Monday through Sunday, or if that means he'll miss starting tomorrow, leading into the preseason finale, which would not be ideal for San Francisco. So Robert Jones did not play because of injury tonight. But that could also make way for Carver Willis to win the starting left guard job. So those are your injury updates. Fun night for Niner fans. A lot of scoring, punt returns. A.J. Martinez scored like 3 touchdowns tonight. It was a fun game overall. San Francisco's defense played well. I thought it was good to see Brock Purdy back out there. And, of course, big highlights from De'Zhaun Stribling, Jacob Kaelon, Kaelon Black. And, of course, the defense was freaking fantastic tonight. Run defense, so much better. Alfred Collins was not an eyesore. Good to see. Not talked about much, which is never a bad thing. If you are a defensive tackle, sometimes it's like just take up double teams and free up Osa Digazua, and we're going to be in good company. So a very fun preseason week number 2. And Laurie Matthews, no, we have no idea who the left guard is. Can we trade Brandon Ayuk for an offensive lineman? Is somebody giving those away for free? We'll literally trade him, pay half his salary, and just say leave. We can find a starting left guard somewhere. But Carver Willis, folks, learn the name. It's going to be him. It's going to be him. That said, thank you to everybody watching on YouTube right now or on Facebook. You guys are awesome. It's late. It is very much into the postgame night and near early morning on the East Coast. That said, if you can, follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. And if you want to see the Niners play in 2026 or go to a concert or go to a baseball game while it's lasting, WNBA, when the NBA comes back in full swing, go to SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using promo code 49ERSAccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com. Again, to save $20 off your first purchase. With that said, preseason week 2 is in the books. Gearing up and looking towards the preseason finale next Thursday against the Raiders. Cannot wait for that, which means roster cutdown day is right around the corner. The clock is ticking. Time is of the essence for many of these Niner players to make one last good impression before they got to say, get out of here, or welcome to San Francisco full time. But in the meantime, like, share, and subscribe to the show. My name is Sterling Bennett. Enjoy the rest of your week and hope you have a great weekend. And as always, stay faithful.